The Opelika, Jane Doe, identified as Amore Wiggens. Her skeletal remains were found in a small creek in a trailer park on the 1700 block of Hearst Street, Opelika, Alabama, on January 28, 2012. Her small skull was found directly behind the trailer. She had perished about 8 months to 2 years prior, placing her date of death between 2010 and 2012. Her death had been ruled a homicide, and while the unfairness of her life moved the police to find her name, they weren't able to. This is the kind of case that touches a lot of people, and so many people were pulling for this. The poor little girl had marks of abuse all over her body, showing years and years of mistreatment. It appears she was malnourished and blind in one eye, due to an injury suffered at the hands of her abuser or abusers. She had at least 15 broken bones that had healed prior, but her eye made the identification possibly a little easier to make, or at least that was what they had hoped. It was this injury that allowed the police to find a likely match for her in photos of a child at a vacation Bible school. They enhanced the photos, which can be seen here. The police would release the digitally enhanced photos of the little girl, believed to be baby Jane Doe. These photographs were first released to the media in 2016. The images of a child at the Greater Peace Baptist Church Vacation Bible School was taken around 2011. The investigators were confident someone would recognize the child, but unfortunately it didn't happen. It was noted in an examination that the young girl was likely about 4. In October of 2022, investigators used DNA to track down her father, who was a 50-year-old man named Amore Joveah Jr. Police would visit him at his home in Jacksonville, Florida, but he would refuse to reveal the child's name or give them any information about her identity at all. With him was his wife, Ruth Joveah, who had been married to him since 2006, at least 4 years before the young girl's life was taken. Ruth would insist, however, she never saw a young girl and she had no idea who she could be. The police kept at it, and eventually they were able to identify the girl's mother as Sherry Wiggens. When the police interviewed her, she would confirm that she gave birth to a child named Amore Joveah Wiggens in January of 2006. Sherry would explain that her ex-boyfriend, Amore Joveah, took her to court, and he and his wife were given sole custody of Amore in 2009. Possibly because of the regular abuse she suffered at home, she was never even enrolled in school or anything of the kind. There's no confirmation if that is her in the Bible school photos. It turns out that Sherry Wiggens had been paying child support since 2009, 13 years, without any knowledge that her daughter was no longer alive. The police would find records that showed Sherry was trying to get visitation of Amore. The problem was that Amore Joveah lived in an entirely different state, and Amore himself had stopped communicating with the mom and blocked her from any contact. Sherry had gone to court in Virginia, which is where she originally lost custody, and she tried to get the sole custody order amended. It's not clear exactly what happened, but her appeal was denied without anyone actually reaching out and speaking to the child. It would take over a decade to start to get justice for Amore, but on January 17, 2023, Amore and Ruth Joveah would be arrested in Jacksonville, Florida. Amore was charged with felony murder, and Ruth is charged with failure to report a missing child. The Joveahs of this writing were being held without bond. Amore Joveah is a graduate of Opelika High School and had served in the Navy. He'd been stationed throughout the U.S., including Hawaii and Jacksonville. At the time he petitioned for custody over the mother, they would deem him the more responsible parent, in part because he was married to Ruth, was older, and could provide a stable home for the child. This happened in Virginia, where he was originally stationed at the time. He was stationed in Florida at the time of his arrest. It also turns out that he had friends and family that lived in that trailer court that was right in front of where she was found. A search warrant has been executed at one specific trailer in that area that's not been disclosed. A witness also placed Joveah in the area itself when the child's life was taken. It turns out that Amore Joveah ended up being listed AWOL from the Navy because the police approached him and he tried to get away. NCIS found him and set up a meeting, and this is when he completely ran, eventually finding him pretty quickly. They still very much need people to come forward with information, and this little girl needs someone to stand up for her now, after living all those years without anyone standing up for her then, including the system that placed her with her father. Amore Wiggens has gone unidentified for 10 years. Had a monster not taken her life, she would have turned 17 years old on New Year's Day.